did think that you were going to say that you were going to see a discrepancy of women who are more eligible than men.
Welcome to the Franciska Show podcast on JewishCoffeehouse.com, a show in where I give a voice to Jewish issues, topics, and people. I'm Franciska Frady, your host. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, leave me a comment. You can join our WhatsApp discussion group, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it. Rivkah Fox, it's great to have you on, finally.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself, professionally and religiously.
Okay, so I am a full-time matchmaker, a shadchan, and I hail from New Jersey originally. My family made Aliyah. I lived in Israel for a little bit. I grew up with Ibis Yaakov background, and I married a Baal Tshuva who went to Penn, who is now a kiruv rabbi at UPenn. And in addition to full-time shadchaning, matchmaking, I also am a kiruv wife, a kiruv rebbitzin.
And you are going to be an interim rabbi rebbitzin
at
this week?
Shul. Yes, so Franciska's brother, Benji Goldschmidt, and Avital, her sister-in-law, are the amazing rabbi and rebbitzin of the Altnoy Shul on the Upper East Side. And my husband is their step-in scholar in residence. So we go periodically for Chagim. And last summer we went, and we're leaving tomorrow to step in.
Today we're here to talk about your latest shidduch initiative. And before we get started, do you know how many shidduchim you have made?
Oh, Franciska, don't ask me.
That's an Ein Hara question.
A girl never tells.
Fine. Okay, tell us about BlindFate.
Okay, amazing. So I am in a little bit of an unconventional shadchan. I started getting involved in shidduchim really for close friends of mine who are my age, and really just getting involved with their shidduch process to be helpful. And I got very busy with it at the very start of COVID and would make events and different things until I eventually evolved into a full-time matchmaker. And part of what I do is trying to be aware of what the singles plight is. You know, I shouldn't even really use that word. I know that some people feel uncomfortable with that word. So people who are dating and looking to get married, a lot of people who are in circles that are maybe more yeshivish or don't meet guys or women on their own end up feeling very, very out of the process, and that their only recourse is just to wait for a matchmaker to call. So what I've been trying to do is trying to give matchmaking a facelift, essentially, by making things more accessible. So, and fun and just approachable for people who are looking to get married. I do deal with the full gamut. I set up people who are not religious, who are modern Orthodox, who are yeshivish, chill, Hasidish, and everything in between, many Bali Tshuva. So I wouldn't really peg myself in a niche, but I would say that I am trying to help people who find the system of matchmaking to be difficult and feel cornered into the system. So most recently, I've opened up my social media platform, my Instagram, to kind of address questions that come in. And then I've also started some games on my social media that has helped people, and the feedback that I've gotten is that it's so much fun and that it's an exciting experience. Soon after launching one of the games, which I'll get into, a shidduch actually came from that game. The wedding is in about a week and a half, which is super exciting. And the questions that would come in before I get to the games, I'll start with the questions. I would put up an anonymous link through this app, NGL, not gonna lie. And I would get questions from moms whose sons or daughters flipped out and saying, help me, like, I know you're part of the system and I don't know what to do. It's so uncomfortable for me. My son or daughter has been in a co-ed school their whole life, and now all of a sudden they won't talk to guys or gals, and they're only getting set up, and it's so uncomfortable and it's so hard for me, and I'm so upset. And I'll try and arrange kind of like support groups with other moms who I've been hearing similar things. I got a lot of advice questions. What do I do? I've been having a dry spell. No one's reaching out with suggestions. What else am I supposed to do? just kind of hashkafa questions, red flag questions, and everything in between. Now, I'll get into the game. So the games started with my husband was in Poland this winter on a Kiev trip with his UPenn students. And my best friend, who's not yet married, she was over for Shabbos. Motzi Shabbos, there's nothing to do in Philly, right, Franciska?
I have no idea. I go to sleep.
Okay. So for those who are night owls, there's very little going on here. And I don't know how the idea came up. It just hit us. We were like, what if like the people that, and this friend of mine also is very involved in setting up our friends and brainstorming and networking. We're like, what if friends that opt in that want to feature on my Instagram their anonymous bios, and then we can crowdsource with the public and see ideas that come in. So that was our first launch while my husband was in Poland. And people loved it because people were sending in ideas for their neighbor, for their cousin, for themselves. And these contestants were anonymous. We posted these anonymous bios and we would list them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 10 guys, 10 gals. And people would say like, oh, can you tell me more about contestant 11? Can you tell me more about 12? I have someone for 8. And from that very, very, very first launch is the couple that's getting married a week and a half, Gabby Stefanski from Belgium and Hama Rosenblum from Passaic. Now, with that, there was a lot of interest. People would ask me after Motzi Shabbos, how can I find out more about this one, that one? People would screenshot it and send it around to their friends. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this as a weekly thing, Motzi Shabbos. And people would ask me all week long if they could be featured, if they could send in their bio. And it really became something where people who were cornered into the shidduch system felt that, oh, now I have an opportunity where I can suggest myself to people. I can feature myself. I can see how other people describe themselves. And it was really, really exciting.
It's a way of it being more public in terms of other people seeing how it works so they can learn for themselves and pick up language or pick up nuance. And on the other hand, they get to be proactive themselves. They don't need somebody to represent them, but they get to be anonymous and protect their dignity and picture and all of that, like the passing around thing.
Exactly. And, 2 things I just want to add to that is with the picture thing, I completely understand that people want to see a picture before going out. But what happens with these bios is that people read about them and can find kind of a level of compatibility or excitement with just the bio before seeing the picture. They'll then say, I'm interested in contestant 11. And if I think that it's a good call and I feel safe sharing the other person's information or I got their permission, I'll share it with the picture. But the person who's already invested from a bio, which is the reverse of what usually happens. People usually say, I'm interested in that picture. Tell me her bio. You know what? It doesn't sound like what I'm looking for, but her picture is, so I'll go with it anyways. So it's really, really the reverse of what generally happens, which I think is great. It makes people use their head first. And then the other important thing that's brought to the table is that there is power to the people. There's so much networking that's going on with the public and crowdsourcing. And because there are so many people that want to be set up, it can't all weigh on just professional matchmakers. Everybody should be involved in setting up those that they know. And, the neighbor of the person who's looking to get married knows that girl or guy better than the matchmaker does. And this is a way for everyone to get involved and everyone to realize that they can add a lot and really be helpful to the shidduch system.
If you had to give some tips to your average person on how do you set 2 people up or how do you find compatibility on somebody else's behalf?
Okay, great question. So there's like the conscious make sense track, and then there's the knee-jerk reaction, subconscious, picking up on certain vibes or picking up on certain elements that would be really, really important to a person. So I would say on the conscious level, there's maybe 4 biggest categories. And those biggest categories are age, hashkafa, looks, also like education level, etc., or career, things like that. And sometimes it has to do with location, sometimes it has to do with height, personality, but those are just very, very broad framework. And then from the people that fit in more or less to that category, I kind of get deeper and deeper to see if things line up. Background, what they're looking for, et cetera, values. And then on the subconscious level, there's a million and one things that we pick up when we speak to a person without even realizing it. We pick up subconsciously things like refinement, things like education level, things like what do they really, really value deep down. And like often with a guy within like a minute, I could figure out that all he cares about is looks and nothing else matters. Or I could find out that he really, really wants someone to be supportive of his Torah learning for the longest amount of time. We can pick up on a young woman who really just wants to please her parents, and the parents want a boy with a certain pedigree, and so she's just trying to find what her parents want. There's a lot that's coming at me and that we all can pick up on when we speak to a person. So I would say we have the subconscious and the conscious track.
And you're very good at both, but the subconscious, the in between the lines, you're very talented.
Thank you.
What would you say the alignment is between what people are looking for versus when they're going out with that, how much of that is actually a good fit for them? Meaning somebody wants looks and then they get the looks on the date. Does that usually proceed to engagement, or they can't find what they're looking for because the looks is not enough, but what they're saying is looks or implying?
So every case is different. Every person is different. And every mix of guy and girl and all the different things that are going on with them. And that involves a lot of psychological things, emotional things, attachment styles, and how they interact with each other. So there's so much
You're
at
saying
play.
every person is an individual?
I know, surprise, right? So sometimes it takes setting someone up a few times with different people to realize if they really mean what they say that they're looking for, or if they really are just looking for that thing that I could tell that they're looking for. And if that's a certain bracket financially, or looks, or fulfilling parents' dreams, and that's really the overarching thing for them, or if they are really carrying through and committed to their list of their values. It takes setting someone up a few times to realize how seriously they mean when they give me their list of the values that they're looking for and other things.
I just spent Shabbos recently on Yeshiva Lane, and it was fun because I haven't been there in a while, and I got to speak to so many people. It was a simcha. So I always poll things. I try to see what's going on. So I asked someone, what's the biggest issue within the shidduch system? So I introduced the question by saying we don't produce the women and the men to be on the same page by the time they're done with the system. And one answer I got that stood out was they make the girls too frum. That was her line. And I thought that was...
Oh, interesting. That's not what I thought you were going to say.
And I just want to see what you think the misalignment is. What's the biggest clash that you have to deal with?
You know, it's interesting. I do see a lot of too from. There is no such thing as too from. Everyone should be authentic to who they are. But in terms of having more of one gender over the other, I would say in the from YU circles, I see a lot more very stark girls than guys. Or at least maybe from the pool of people that have come to me, I have way more very stark YU girls than guys. The yeshivish world, I see many very from guys who want to learn a long time, who really want a girl who's committed. And then there's the girls who are more chill, many girls who are more chill in the yeshivish world. So it's interesting. And I guess also different matchmakers deal with different populations and have different people come to them. But I did think that you were going to say that you were going to see a discrepancy of women who are more eligible than men, which something that I've noticed. I've spoken with my husband and various others about this as well. Women are looking for a guy who is both who is financially successful or can support a family in the tri-state area, which demands a very, very high level of success. And for women, and that makes a man eligible. And that's sometimes a given for many women. They're just a given. I want a guy who's really from Kobe, Itim, Minyan, normal with it, and going to support me and our family in the tri-state, which is a very, very high bar. And now for a woman to be eligible, a woman does not need to be making that kind of digits. A woman can be a graphic artist, a woman can be a therapist, a woman can be a teacher, a woman can be earning a lot less income. A woman can say that she wants to be a homemaker and she is no less eligible. So you have this huge discrepancy and this enormous expectation on guys, whereas you don't have that on women.
And I think this also translates into the secular world as well. Because if the bar is so high for men and the bar is so low for women in terms of financial abilities, then of course it's harder to find the men because men don't want to commit to a high.
But there are other pressures on women, and that's
no, women are eligible and willing.
The elephant in the room, the huge emphasis on looks.
Happens to be, I remember my music teacher from growing up said, men just have to be a little prettier than a monkey, you know? We have such low standards.
Literally.
Are you comfortable sharing your dating background yourself? Did you like the system?
Sure.
Did you hate the system? How did it work out for you?
You know, I was very young. I don't have tons of memories, insight into the system per se, but I had a wonderful shadchan. And for us, it was a little bit different because my father knew my husband very well. My husband was a Baal Tshuva who went through the Meor Program at University of Pennsylvania. My father was co-founder and chairman of Meor, and he knew Rick very, very well. So when our friend Tamar Rubin suggested Rick, it was very, very in-house, and Tamar's great, and my family loved Rick already. So it was a little bit of a different story than just being, going to a professional matchmaker and then meeting someone foreign. So I can't weigh in too much on that. And I do see so much positive to the system, and I do see so many struggles and so much difficulty as well.
Thanks for sharing that. Do you have pain points? Anytime I have a shadchan, I'll have to ask if you have, things that you don't like to deal with, and then things you would like more of, and I'll leave it open-ended.
Yeah. So I think like everyone, I really like dealing with positive, mature, kind people. I am sensitive and I can get often rude comments, upset people, aggressive people, especially because we're dealing with something that's wrought with emotion. These are people's lives, and dating can get so intense and so emotional for people, and being the brunt of it is really, really difficult. So I try to give more attention to people that are just easier for me to deal with. I have pet peeves, like people who say, how can you suggest this person? My daughter's so beautiful, or my son is so good looking and he's a 10 out of 10. How can you suggest this person? And in my head, I'm just like, first of all, I see it differently, or I didn't know that other person so well and I thought it would be compatible. But to decide, like, we're not God to decide this person's on a higher level than this person. Just say, no, not for me, no, thank you. But the putting down of the other person is just such a bad luck. It makes me so uncomfortable. And then the other pet peeve that I have is people who start off conversation like, these are my family's accolades. We hail from XYZ and we are successful in XYZ and we are looking for a family that is compatible. And for me, it's so far from the idea of I'm trying to build a relationship with someone. I'm trying to build a beautiful home based on compatibility, based on building something beautiful together, working on something together. It sounds so business deal-like. And when people don't even mention their child, it's just a family shidduch and the kids are supposed to go along. And it's not even families that have similar values. Like, oh, we're a very hospitable family and we are very, very involved in outreach. We'd love some family that can relate to that and have similarities to that. We're talking about, our family is CEO and has these kind of assets and we want a family with similar. And to me, that's just so uncomfortable. And I've gotten that a lot. That's also a huge pet peeve of mine.
Uh-huh. I listened to a podcast on matchmaking on one of my favorite podcasts, Freakonomics, with Stephen Dubner. It was a while back. And he went through the history of matchmaking. And it used to be all about the business deal, transactional, the socioeconomic transaction. And when you're in the market, literally, you're being positioned or evaluated. And also, it was always exclusive, royals with royals. So when people come to you, which is your pet peeve, it sounds very traditional. In fact, it doesn't matter what the children want. We just want to arrange a certain dynasty.
Right. And I do try and look for family compatibility, but I think just the emphasis and the way that it's presented is just very antithetical to the world that we're living in, the values, the beliefs, the realization that successful relationships are built on building something and investing in something. And I think it's the opposite of the paradigm of investing and giving and building, but it's the expectation of what's coming to me and what am I getting, which is what erodes relationships and marriages. And it's coming in with this mindset of taking as opposed to giving.
Yeah. And it makes sense that when it comes to your children, that you want to set them up in the best way possible. You want to start them off without any known disqualifications, like things that may make their life any harder. And I'll quote, I think my uncle, who says, any family that doesn't have diagnoses in the family, it's because, not because they don't have them, it's because they're undiagnosed.
They never went to the doctor.
Everyone
Exactly.
has family history. Daters who you mentioned, family, they want to fulfill their family.
Their parents' wishes.
What is that usually? And how do you pick up on it? Like when a dater is saying something and really it's not their wish, how do you pick up on that? And what is it usually?
Speaking to a mother usually who says a lot about our family we're looking for, and it doesn't have to do so much with the individual, but more like with their family. Sometimes I'll speak to a mom and then their daughter, and I'll hear different things about what they're looking for. Sometimes I'll find a great guy with good mido and sounds like a good fit for the girl, and the mom will nix it because it's not the glittery package the mom envisions.
I get the idea. It's directly being imposed on you. It's not something you're picking up on. From what I know is you're not involved after the introduction part so much, are you?
Somewhat. Look, if it's intense coaching or very lengthy advice, then I refer out to a coach. But the day-to-day feedback, debriefing the date, planning the next one, I'm involved in that if the people want. But I set up people who sometimes they're off and running after I switch phone numbers in either the modern Orthodox, the non-Orthodox world. So it really depends on what they want from me.
Have you ever been involved in a shidduch where you felt like at a certain point it wasn't a good idea, but they were continuing? Did that result in divorce?
No, thank God I've had no divorces from the couples that I've set up. But there have been times where I've seen large hashkafa discrepancies that I only kind of realized the extent once they were dating. So like, for example, a very growth-oriented woman who went from traditional or modern Orthodox and she's on a growth trajectory. And then she tells me that the guy doesn't really care so much about Shabbat, or doesn't even believe in a God. And I'm just like, but I don't know if I should tell them to break up. I've had another one where the guy is from the modern Orthodox world, and I sent some suggestions, and he was very interested in a beautiful woman, and he said yes to her. And then I found out that she wasn't quite Orthodox, not fully Shomer Shabbat. And he was like, oh, I don't care. Like I like her. And I didn't know if it was my place. And I've had to ask, I've called like Rabbanim in the past in terms of like, what's my place? What do I say? What do I not say? And what's my responsibility? With that case, with the modern Orthodox guy who wanted to go ahead dating this traditional girl, Baruch Hashem, it didn't work out, and I didn't have to worry about bringing a guy down to like a lower level. But the rabbi did say, make it very clear to him that that's where she's standing and that's not what he's looking for. And then like, it's out of my control.
So back to BlindFate. How active, how successful is this becoming?
So it's gotten a lot of traction. It only just started, I think not even a month ago.
Oh.
And what I did is with round 1 of BlindFate is I chose, it's a spinoff of the Motzi Shabbos contestants, which we call SNL, Saturday Night Leiv. And so spinoff of SNL is that I chose 3 guys, 3 girls in a similar demographic who more or less on paper can all go out with one another. I asked them if they want to be part of this, if they'll go ahead with whatever happens. Yes, great. I chose 3 guys and girls from around the age group of 25 approximately, and right-wing modern Orthodox, chill yeshivish. And they were my contestants. They each wrote a very comprehensive bio, anonymous, and I posted them A, B, C, and then the guys D, E, F, and then the public had 3 days to vote on which guy and which girl should date. The one with the most votes, they met at Wall Street Grill. Wall Street Grill is our sponsor, and they sponsored their date. They met at Wall Street Grill without knowing each other's name up until they walk into the restaurant, and they go on their first date. And they keep the public in the loop by sharing pictures without their faces, their experience, what it was like to be a part of it, if they're going out again, if they're not going out again. So from our first round, we had woman B and guy E match up. What was crazy, they're still dating. And what's so crazy is they both knew each other a little bit from before. I don't want to give away any revealing details. They knew each other a little bit from before, and they crossed over a little bit in their schools and their professions, and which also really makes sense because they seem so compatible on paper that they would be in similar circles. And they both said, look, we make perfect sense on paper, but we assumed that we were friends. So we never went out on the limb of dating. But after the first date at Wall Street Grill, like we really do make a lot of sense. And we're going to see where this goes. And they're still dating, which is incredible, incredible, incredible. And then we launched our second round last week, which was called Sephardi Party. It was all Sephardi people who want to get married. And our winners have not yet gone on the date. She's out of town. They're going to go on the date next week.
There were other games?
So we have SNL and BlindFate.
What's the difference?
Okay, SNL, Saturday Night Leiv, is just the Motzi Shabbos posting of the contestants, like 5 to 10 guys, 5 to 10 girls, and crowdsourcing. I also will feature like a lot of feedback from like my DMs without people's names and feedback and people's musings about dating and experiences. I've posted pictures without faces from the different dates that have gone out from Saturday Night Leiv, which is actually a lot. And it's very international because the people that are following my Instagram are from all over the world. Baruch Hashem, I've successfully matched up people now from 7 different countries and soon maybe an 8th. They're dating seriously. And so I have people all over Europe, Israel, Canada. I have a couple that's engaged. The Kala's sister, I never met the Kala or the Chassan. The Kala's sister lives in Israel, and she was following me and sent me her sister's profile. So they're getting married in Israel soon. So we have dates going on everywhere. So there was a date that happened in Switzerland recently that they sent me their picture and the scenery without themselves in the picture. There was a date that actually went out last night from Saturday Night Leiv in London. I'm still waiting for them to send me the pictures.
Leiv? Saturday Night
Leiv, like okay. Heart, like Leiv, and it's a playoff
Live.
of Saturday Night Live. Yeah,
I just thought you were mispronouncing it the whole time.
Love.
Okay,
Saturday Night Live.
Okay, is this complementing your regular matchmaking? Has this enhanced it?
It's definitely made things super, super busy for me. and fun. I love the interactive process. I love when everyone's involved and engaged and it's fun and it takes the edge and the pressure off and it's humorous. I love that. Last week, I did something that I should have done about a year ago. I hired an assistant because it's just been so much work, and that's been really, really helpful. I know.
So what does the assistant do?
Data entry and way of organizing all of the information that I get in from like intake calls with people has gone through many different iterations and needed a certain level of organization, and I needed to figure that out. So she's doing a lot of data entry for me in a very, very methodical way, and anything that can be outsourced, I'll send her way. So she's not doing the matchmaking, but she's really, really helping me to be organized so that I can most efficiently search for people and take down their information in a very, very clear way.
And what's some information that is in the intake that somebody wouldn't necessarily think goes into your spreadsheet?
It's usually what you would think, like the things that I mentioned: age, location, height, hashkafa, education, learning, amount of years, Israel Aliyah.
So if somebody would like to engage your services, do they have to pay you a retainer? Are you success-based? How can people get involved?
For the most part, I've been success-based. And then when my schedule's gotten out of whack, and also because I had a lot of like very entitled people just demand my time because they're like, you're a matchmaker, why can't you get on the phone with me? Why can't you listen to me for an hour? And then I realized that something needed to change. So I started taking on clients, and then I would tell people who are demanding my time, look, you can sign up to be a client. At this point, I have a wait list for clients because I won't take on more than I can properly handle. And I put in a lot of time into my clients. It's kind of like concierge dating. And I do look out for everyone, and I will take information from everyone, but the bulk of my time and focus will be for my clients.
And what do they get as part of being your client?
I am like a personal headhunter for them, for their person. So I'm networking for them. I'm searching for them. I'm constantly keeping them in mind. I will take phone calls from them. I will be there for them every step of the way.
So when someone like me asks you to look at a certain resume, or if I could connect you with somebody else who also does shidduchim, is that helpful, or is that you're not a client so I can't prioritize you, or I'll just skim over, or like, why are you adding more into my load of work, or is it good now I have access to new profiles?
So it depends. One, it depends how much I have going on that day, that week, that month. And if I can't do it, I'll just say I don't have capacity right now. And sometimes it's very helpful because I will be looking out for clients and I'm looking for certain profiles for them. So if it fits in potentially to something that my client is looking for, then I'd be very interested.
What kind of hate have you gotten from people from the way that you do things? Because people hate shadchanim. when they actually need to work with them for a long period of time, I assume that they have their...
Yeah. So I have like I have few, but very few people over the years that I've had to block. Each one is like a story. And I wouldn't say it's a lot of people, very, very few people. And it's when I've gotten like really direct personal insults at me because they didn't like the suggestions that I was sending them, or the suggestions were saying no to them and they were blaming me for it. And it was usually people who were just like emotionally very unhealthy and kind of harassing or stalkery.
What about pet peeves of yours?
The only thing I could think of is like another young woman's profile being added to the pile, and you're like, I don't have, like, send me a man's profile.
So what I try and do, and this is really the foundation of everything to do with shidduchim, is really, I'm a puppet. It's all from Hashem. Things come through me. Things don't come through me. And I do think that every person that I meet and every interaction that I have is being sent to me from Hashem. And so I do try and give it a look. And even if I don't have a lot of time, I try not to like completely disregard. And sometimes I'll say to the person, I want to take a look. Can you reach out to me in a few weeks? And sometimes I'll keep bumping them for a while until I can give them adequate time.
And anyone can be a part of the BlindFate game.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of volunteers already. What I have to do for the next round is decide which demographic I'm going to do. A lot of people have asked me in other locations like Israel, Florida, if we can do something in their location. So I kind of have to figure out which demographic I'm going to do, and then I'm going to choose people from the volunteers.
Anything else you wanted to add
Amazing.
before we wrap up?
You're the best.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing this, Rivkah. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Franciska.
Thank you for watching until the end. This is the Franciska Show podcast. I am Franciska. This podcast is available on all your favorite podcast streaming apps. Please tell a friend, leave a comment here, make sure to subscribe to my channel. If you have any comments or feedback, please reach out. My information is in the show description of this video. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. This is a Jewish Coffee House podcast. So check out the other podcasts on the network, including Orthodox Conundrum, Intimate Judaism, and Chochmat Nashim. Thank you for watching and see you next time.